Okay, up to Kufyud. Kol Tolodos Adam Hu Min Hashem Yisbarach. Everything which happens to a person, uh, um, according to the or a time, not things which happen to another person as a result of other people, but according to the Tzadok, I think even things which happen to a person as a result of other people, everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's of course the Hasidic concept of Hashgacha Pratis, where everything happens because HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts it into place. Shalkein Isa B'Reish Tainis, Mafteach Akros Rak Biyodo. The Everett says that the key of who's going to give birth is only in the hands of Kodesh Baruch Hu. Even that, whoever's whatever happens in this world from a person's birth is from Kodesh Baruch Hu. Mashkas be many perichanim tzah. From me, your fruit comes. Mashin el acher, as opposed to any other. Literally means any other god, but he means there's no other power in the any other power in the world. Istaris is impotent, can't do anything. V'lo avi parent and cannot produce any fruit. Kinisa bizarre, kinisa begedushin. Avera ein lo peros. It's in the fascinating application because there, this really is not talking about this idea of Hakadosh Baruch Hu Hashgacha, but he's saying the Avera doesn't have a fruit. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides fruit, meaning that it's not automatic what happens to a person. Even a person commits an Avera, it's not automatic that things are going to happen to him which are negative. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides on that, and that's why it's according to that's why tshuva is effective, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, but it's not necessarily going to happen that because you sin, something bad will happen to you. It's my decision. Vinay, gam ruchin v'shidin v'lilin. Ruchin is one type of demons. Shidin v'lilin are other types of demons. Shenolodin me'otzah which come about as a result of wasted seed. Hemikroim toldosav are also called the offspring of a person. Much cause bizarre. Al pasuk nige b'bnei adam. Actually, they're considered to be afflictions of human beings, but they are things which come from a person, and they're considered to be his, so to speak, children. Well, the question is obviously, if that's the case, what do you mean? I mean, why should Kosh Baruch Hu give the avera that a person did of an actual fruit, which is the demons which are born from it? That seems to contradict what we just said, that avera ein laperos, right? We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't decree bad things to happen. In other words, yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes things happen to you, but why does he make this happen to you? Why does he give this Avera specifically a capacity to produce negative creatures, which come about as a result of this Avera? With you, evil does not exist. The it's not possible that which is called bad should be from Hashem. So this presents him sort of with a problem. If from HaKadosh Baruch Hu you don't get bad things, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who's responsible for the children one has, and for the children of an Avera, of a Zar are bad creatures like Ruch and Shidin and Leland, how could it possibly come about? So it says, I'm talking this, it says, I'm not going to feel evil because you're with me. That's what David HaMelech says. But even if I go to the valley of the shadow of death, Gehenna, which is hell, which calls it Erevin Mesaita. This is referring, what is the valley of hell here? So it's referring to a Tzara. It says that if a person damages his bris milah, he damages his covenant with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then he's not free of the judgment of Gehenna. So this it says that Hashem judges with fire. From Uzawa said, "Teve kol umav. Every nation with its God goes down to be punished by Hashem." What is Elohel? What do you mean? There's no, the other nations' gods are not real gods. So it doesn't mean every nation with the gods go with his God goes down to Gehenna. Makes no sense. So he says it means the spiritual force. The spiritual force which gives that nation the power to accomplish things in this world goes down with it. But of course, it's not actually another God. Ba'aleinu nemar, ki hu anoseinu l'chakoach. And concerning us, it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly gives us the power in this world. In other words, there's no spiritual force other than Hashem which gives us power. Remember, Kigam Koma Seinu Palto Alonu. It says that all of our deeds you do for us, says we say to Kosh Baruch Hu. Zel Atoimadi. And this is saying that why it says, Gam Kelech Begates Hamavis, even I go in the valley of the shadow of death, I'm not going to worry, not afraid. Ki Atoimadi, because Kosh Baruch Hu is with us. Kosh Baruch Hu gives us the koyach wherever we are, whatever we do, everything comes from Kosh Baruch Hu. Everything comes from God. So the and through this, the Gehenna, which is a fire, Madregas Hayira. This is which is the of course, fire represents fear and awe of Hashem, which goes with Chagiga. The Nahar Dinor, the fire of the river of fire, Vizyotin Shel Chayos, which comes from the sweat of the angels on high when they are very, very afraid of Hashem. It comes down on the heads of the wicked in Gehenna. He still hasn't answered his original question. How can this bad thing come about? Why does Kosh Baruch Hu allow a person who's mostly Zerabato to create all sorts of negative creatures? But he's getting there. Meantime, he says that Gehenna has a certain role in that comes to a certain positive place, in that the fire of Gehenna comes from the fear, which manifests itself in some sort of not literal sweat, but some sort of symbolic sweat, which comes from the chayos, which are in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and experience the fear and awe of being that presence. And that comes down on the heads of Rishon and Gehenna. V'yisira ra, so there's a yira which is bad. In other words, it's negative. Shurutzu al bishaya, which is a whip to beat people who are bad people. But now comes where he starts answering the question. So first he says that for Russia, a real Russian Gehenna, which he associates with the people who have no takana, which presumably is mostly the non-Jews, although it could be that there are Jews there as well who have that at the level. But it was before he said, the Uma of Elohea, the other nations and their gods. So the real wicked people who are the wicked people of other nations, right? So he says that they get beaten by the fire of Gehenna. But by us, by Deki Atzamid, is Hapachliras Hashem, because Goshbo is with us. So then the fear which we experience, even if it's in Gehenna, it's something which is positive. It gives us fear of Hashem, Viras Haromus, and it gives us a fear of God's greatness. Hamavia Adrab L'Simcha, and which brings on the contrary to Simcha. Like we said several times, he says in many places, we rejoice in trembling. Gila is happiness, Ra'ada is fear. In our fear, we find happiness. The Ton of Elio, which he doesn't quote here explicitly, but it says there, Ani samachti mitoch hirasi v'aresi mitoch simchasi. I come to fear, I come to happiness out of my fear, and to fear out of my happiness. V'az kvar nitkan. So, whatever these ruchin, shadim, and lilin are, eventually they're fixed. When the person goes down to Gehenna, if he has to, if he didn't do tshuva, and he experiences that fire, which in this case gives him yira, and therefore leads him to simcha, it fixes everything. The Kibbutz Onsho and receives his punishment, Bezeh. Kizeh Meisir Yira. And because we know that the Hotzah Zelabatola is it takes away the Yiras Hashem. It says in Brachos, that's why a person who is Motzi Zelabatola is not supposed to daven and learn because he's lacking in Yiras Hashem until he goes to the mikveh, until he purifies himself. We don't pass him that way in our day and age. A person can daven and learn even though he was Hotzah Zerabatola. But back then, when they were more meticulous about it, the idea was a person who's involved in such behavior, he doesn't have proper yira, so he can't learn to daven properly. But the opposite is true as well. If you have yira, and that's what the fire of Gehenna represents, for a person who didn't fix it during his lifetime, that he can fix it after his death with the fire of Gehenna, which is Yiras Hashem. Meser Oven Zeh takes away that fear. Kamash Kosev Yiras Hashem, fear Hashem, B'sur Meirah. And you move away from evil. Kamash Kosev Perek Gimel Nedarim, like it says in the third Perek Nedarim, Ayin Sham. I'll pay up some pasuk on the pasuk Bavor Tiei Yirasah B'nechem Levilti Techto. So Kodesh Baruch Hu's fear should be on your face that you shouldn't sin. So it says in Tzadok, and this comes back to something we've learned several times. Even the sins a person does, even if they have negative ramifications, even because though they cause shidim, ruchim, belilin, ultimately they get fixed. Ultimately they're there for a purpose. And even a person that's true in this world, great, then that fixes them. But if a person goes down, needs to go down to Gehenna, so then Gehenna fixes it. And then the fear which a person gets in Gehenna from the fire, which comes down from those angels and their sweat in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that fixes that person and fixes his Aveir as well. So although he doesn't explain how, but somehow even those souls which he gave birth to, which Reb Tzadok said, why would Hashem cause them to be born, these damaged souls which become demons? No, they also get fixed. So everything that's in this world ultimately comes to get fixed. Not for everybody, obviously. He's saying this only for the Jewish people wicked, not for the non-Jewish people who are wicked, but he's saying for the Jewish people who are wicked, so then they are able to fix even the things which went wrong, because the fire of Gehenna cleanses, brings yira and purifies their souls. So therefore, this fixes this sin, even about Zel Batola. Okay, so next one, Kufirav, 111. Bikvas the Mashiach, right before the coming Mashiach, and I think this one finally gets out of Hotzah Zel Batola. I think so. Because the time right before Mashiach comes, when the footsteps of Mashiach are heard, Ha'ikar hu rak lo tzia kar mizol. The main thing is just to take that which is precious out of that which is disgusting. Because everything is disgusting, everything is bad, everything is tumah, everything is negative. So whatever we can save and take that which is precious out of that which is bad. That's whatever we can do during Ikvus and the Mashiach right before Mashiach comes. That's the main avoda, the main service of Hashem during that time. For Rakim Mokum Yetzirah, and specific only from a place of Yetzirah, V'tikboras Abonos, and where there are great sins. Misham Mikachecha, from there Kosh Baruch takes you. Daikai De Tshuva, simply by the tshuva which we do. Like it says in the last paragraph of Sanhedrin, it says Ben David, actually 10 paragraphs of Sanhedrin, Ben David Ba B'Darsh Kula Chayev. A Mashiach can come in a generation which is completely negative, completely chayiv, completely bad. Why? Because there's still good to be gotten from there. And on the contrary, that's what the Mashiach does. He brings the good out of the bad. And a soul like this, who's bad but can be brought back to good, who's is immersed in bad but can be the good can be brought out. He's from the part of Mashiach. Like David himself, Nikra Sheikim Ol Shel Tshuva. It says that he set up the example of Tshuva and that he messed up and he came back to do Hashem's will. And that is the model for Moshe Mashiach. We know that the Am Yisrael, its legs go down to death, meaning that Am Yisrael has to find, during the right before Mashiach comes, finds itself in a very deep and dark place, in a deathly place. May God help us. Because Mashiach, when in the footsteps of Mashiach, meaning the time before Mashiach comes, and Nefashos Minar Aglaim, souls come from the legs. In other words, all the generations are like a huge human body, and the first generation of Yetzias Mitzrayim is called the Dor Dea, the generation of wisdom. They correspond to the head. And Ikvas on the Mashiach literally means the footsteps of Mashiach, but also means the heels of Mashiach. Because the souls at the time of Ikvas Mashiach, they come from the heels, they come from the legs. And that the heel comes into contact with bad and with the Yetzirah. And that's where they have to fight. That's Rav Zevin writes that the that's why the heel comes in contact with all sort of the garbage. That's why we wear thick shoes, as opposed to the rest of the body where we wear thinner clothes, and on the head we don't wear any clothes whatsoever, right? Because we need all our senses to be operative. So the lower down the body, the more comes in contact with garbage and difficulty, and therefore more protected it needs to be. And there the battle takes place of the generation Mashiach. L'chein Dora shel nefashos ke'elu daika, a generation of these souls, Zizkul Mashiach. They merit Mashiach. Moshe Musal, Tov Ma'od Eitz Hora. It's very good is the Eitz Hora, because the Eitz Hora is the place where the battles take place. And the generation of Igros and Mashiach is the place where, even though things are very dark, whatever light there is a great accomplishment. Mashiach himself, no Malcolm Gazay, comes from a very dark place. Kayadua, Mashkosav and Medrash Hanelim, as it says, Medrash, which is part of the Zohar, in Parshas Vayera, Abnos Lot, the Mashiach comes to the doors of Lot, who had adulterous relations with their, incestuous relations with their father. For Lot, Abnos Lot for Lot, the doors of Lot with Lot, Shem Shorish Koch, Yetzorah. They were a source of the Koach V'Yetzorah. And then from there came the root of David, Ben David. David Amelech himself came from Moab, from Rus, came from Moab, and Mashiach as well. This is the ultimate shlemus, which will be then time of Mashiach. That which is rooted in bad will become good. And that's what's referred to in Chazal Masechah Sukkah as the slaughtering of the Yetzer Hara. When you slaughter an animal, it becomes suitable to eat. When you slaughter the Yetzer Hara, it becomes suitable to use properly. So when dealing with the Yetzer Hara and fixing it, that's the last generation that's for Mashiach. Who nefesh achron shebaguf. This is the Mashiach is the last soul to come out of guf. Guf is literally means the body, but here refers the one of Chagiga says that I think it's Chagiga that that the guf is also the warehouse of souls in Shamayim, and the last soul to come out is the soul of Mashiach, and he fixes everything else which came before him. And Mashiach is since he's the last soul in that warehouse, he's close to evil and all its power. And in this world, it seems like the generations are getting lower and lower, and they are, because they're getting close to the bottom. But when it's fixed, then when Mashiach comes, or when Mashiach to come, when everything is fixed, Tov, it'll be the best. So at the end of all the activity will come that which was intended first in thought. Right, because there's this idea of no sofan b'chilasan. When you come to the bottom of the circle, you immediately start going up again. So the beginning is connected to the end. The end is connected to the beginning, I should say. So so this is the idea that at that point, when we get to the bottom of evil and we fix the root of evil, that's the time of Mashiach. Kamara Bazak, and this is the secret of the Chayos, the literally it's about the angels, but they go back and forth like lightning. From the place that they stop, they come back. Maskil here and start illuminating again. So the further they go very far away, and then they come back and they illuminate, and that's the idea of Mashiach. It's like a boomerang effect. When it gets to the bottom, gets to the end, it turns right around and starts growing and illuminating right away. But Nasa Rosh just becomes the beginning. The end becomes the beginning. That which is below goes up above. Chazal say when and there it's about somebody went up to Shamayim. And he's on Shamayim. The people are on top in this world, on the bottom of that world. People on the bottom of this world, on the top of that world. But he's using a different Tzadok here. He's saying that Olam Hafach means I see that from the bottom you start going up to the top. So therefore, the world turns over, and everything comes back to the best. And this is the avodah of Iklas and Mashiach, to go to be at the bottom, and even the bottom find the good, find that which is precious, uplift it, and then that ultimately brings about the Gula, and Hashem should bring it about speedily in our time. It's a very beautiful piece. Have a good rest of your night.